Hello and welcome to Auto Today. My name is Dhruv and joining us for this video is the all-new third generation BMW X1. In its latest form, this entry-level luxury SUV has grown in size, it packs in more tech, more features and overall promises to be a whole lot better than the car it replaces. But how does that all pan out in the real world? Well, that's what we're here to find out. But before we proceed further, do remember to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of the great automotive content that we put out on a regular basis.
BMW styling department has rolled out some very controversial designs in recent times, but that's not the case with the third generation X1. It's a smart looking SUV, one that looks much better in the flesh than it does in pictures, with just the right amount of aggression, especially at the front. It looks more like an SUV than its predecessor did and has grown in size as well. It's 53mm longer, 24mm wider and 32mm taller, and the wheelbase has increased by 22mm. The nose gets full LED lighting with inverted L-shaped DRLs flanking the signature kidney grille, whose size has mercifully been kept in check. There are 18-inch alloys offered across all trims, albeit in different designs. Towards the rear, the X1 sports a two-tone bumper and beautifully detailed LED tail lamps.
Now, compared to the exterior, the changes to the interior, specifically the dashboard layout, are far more drastic in the sense that its transition, the X1's transition over its three generations, the evolution of the way the dashboard is in this third generation version is just leaps and bounds ahead of what we've seen in the past. It starts off with this twin screen setup, this BMW curved display which houses a digital instrument cluster and a touchscreen on the left. This digital instrument cluster, it is configurable, you can change the layout. It also changes based on the drive modes, actually not drive modes, the X1 calls it My modes, so it changes based on that. You can view all sorts of information, maps, fuel consumption, there's even a G meter here. So that's what the driver gets. The main talking point is next to the instrument cluster, which is this big touchscreen. Unlike previous BMWs, there is no iDrive controller or knob, it's all touch based now, and the screen itself is brilliant to use. It's slick, it's smooth in its operation and doesn't lag and responds to touch inputs so well. And that's the thing, we've seen a twin screen setup in the past in its competitors, specifically the Mercedes-Benz GLA, but just the way it's been done up in the X1, that's a whole lot better. The quality, the premiumness, it just is slightly ahead of its rival. So that is one aspect that I wanted to call out about the X1. Besides that, there are obviously a whole host of features embedded within the screen. This is your interface between the car and yourself. So you get access to all of those features, and there's certain things that I really like the attention to detail, this graphic of the car on the screen. The attention to detail is really good. So if you put on high beam, the lights mimic that on the graphic here. If you turn on the indicators, again, the lights on the graphic mimic that as well.
Unconventional is the general theme with the dashboard layout, seen in the way the aircon vents have been placed, the upright wireless smartphone charger, and the BMW iX-like console between the front seats that houses the gear selector and audio controls, with a large storage space below it.
And right next to that is this armrest, which hides a very strange storage space. So it's very oddly shaped. It doesn't really hold much except maybe a pair of sunglasses or your wallet or something of that sort. So overall, the cabin is really good and I'm a big fan of the way it's been done up. I love these front passenger seats. They're very comfortable, very well shaped and hold you in place really well. And they're of course both electrically adjustable. The driver side also gets memory settings and both of them have massage function as well. That's also something that you don't tend to see in the entry-level luxury segment. Now, because of the overall increase in size, space, especially in the rear seat, has gone up by a huge amount. Honestly, I feel like I'm sitting in a car that's a segment above the X1. This seat is adjusted to my driving position and my height is 5'8" for reference, and with that setting, look at the amount of knee room I have, the amount of leg room I have. There's so much space for me to stretch my legs out. Shoulder room is amazing. The headroom is also very good. Even if you're a taller individual, you won't be complaining about the headroom in the seat. And just the feeling of space with this panoramic sunroof, with the large window area, it's so positive, the whole experience of sitting in the rear seat of the X1. It is now a car that I can wholeheartedly recommend as one that will suit you even if you're planning to hand it over to your chauffeur. In terms of amenities for the rear seat occupants, there are aircon vents. It's just a 2-zone climate control system, so no individual zone here, so you just get aircon vents. You get 2 USB Type-C charging ports. You get the central armrest with 2 cup holders, and these seats can be moved forward and backward as per your liking, and they also recline to a certain extent, so the level of flexibility is also great.
Space in the boot is quite good as well, with 476 litres of luggage space, expandable to 1527 litres.
BMW is offering the X1 in 2 variants. There's a petrol and a diesel. The petrol variant has a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged motor. So yeah, there has been some major downsizing in that department. It's got about 136 bhp only, and that number seems kind of low for a car in this segment. How it is in the real world, we'll have to wait to find out, because the one we're driving is the diesel. This has a 2 litre 4-cylinder engine, same as the previous generation model, but the power and torque outputs have come down. So power now stands at 150 bhp and there's 360 Newton meters of torque. In the case of the diesel and the petrol variant, the figures don't make for very encouraging reading, to be very honest. I mean, for a car in this segment at this price point, you are kind of expecting slightly more generous numbers in the power and torque department, and all its rivals also offer more powerful petrol, and the GLA, which is the only other option in the diesel segment, offers a more powerful diesel engine. So in that sense, the X1 does seem to lose out a little, but a lot of the effect of these numbers is purely psychological. What I'm trying to say is that in the real world, when you're driving it on a regular basis, when you're in the city, when you're even out on the highway, when you're going about your daily business of driving the car around, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, to be very honest.
BMW has done a fine job of tuning the suspension of the new X1. It works way better at softening the impact from sharper bumps compared to its predecessor, and on the whole, ride quality hasn't just improved over the previous generation model, but it's amongst the best in the segment. The new X1 won't give you a reason to complain in the handling department either, and as an everyday urban SUV, it's better than it ever was.
Also, with the diesel version, the one I'm driving, you have a 0 to 100 kmph time of 8.9 seconds, and that's pretty ample. I mean, for all your daily running on the highway, overtaking traffic, all of that, the car is quick enough, so you won't really feel a lack of power or torque, like I said. The transmission in both variants is a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, very responsive, very quick, does exactly what you want it to. I've also got paddle shifters, so I can take control, take charge of gear shifts. And generally in the past, we've always spoken about drive modes in a BMW, and they've always been the standard Eco Pro, Sport, Comfort, sometimes Sport Plus, depending on what sort of a car it is. With the new generation X1, things have changed a little. What you get is something called My Modes. So My Modes has personal, sport, efficient, expressive, relax, and digital art by the way. And so personal is sort of like an equivalent to comfort, so it keeps the car in its most neutral setting and comfortable. Sport is, as the name suggests, sport mode, so everything is sharpened up, the steering is heavier, the throttle response is more urgent, the gearbox holds on to gears longer, all the works, and you can customize it within the menus. Efficient is your equivalent to Eco Pro essentially, so it changes the behavior of the car to maximize fuel efficiency. But it's the other modes that take the whole driving modes concept to another level, because you've got relax, expressive, digital art, and all of these link with the way the air conditioning behaves. They also link with massage functions of the seats, they also link with the ambient lighting. So it's not just purely about how the car performs on the road, it's about the experience on the whole while driving the car or sitting inside. So that's something interesting, that's something very new, and we'll probably see it in more and more BMWs in the time to come. Compared to the previous generation X1, the new one feels more like an SUV in the sense that you're seated higher up. It feels more like you're sitting, at a level that's higher than the rest of the cars around you, generally speaking. And the last one, for instance, felt more like a jacked up hatchback when you were seated inside the car. This one feels like a proper SUV, and that is something I think will work well with most customers, because generally SUV buyers want that feeling of, you know, lording over others. So in that sense, the X1 does the job really well, hits the brief really well. The left paddle shifter has this text called boost. So what boost does is basically prime the car, the engine, the gearbox to basically sport mode settings. So if you're, say, in comfort or efficient, you can hold this down for a few seconds, and for 10 seconds you get this equivalent of sport mode, so you can quickly do your overtaking and then return to your normal regular driving mode. So you don't have to like toggle between comfort and sport just because you want to, like, there is some traffic that you really need to get through quickly. It's like that's the closest to a NOS button you can get, but yeah, not as amazing.
The driver also gets assistance features in the form of forward collision warning with braking assist, lane departure warning, as well as parking and reversing assistance. While the overall quality of materials used for the upper half of the cabin, surfaces and buttons users would interact with, is great, the plastics used for the lower half disappoint. And compared to rivals, both the petrol and diesel variants of the X1 lag behind in terms of power and torque outputs, and some buyers might find 136 bhp from their 50 lakh rupee petrol SUV hard to digest. There is no option of all-wheel drive in the X1, something that its rivals offer.
There's something I realized about the X1 on the whole. While BMW has done a really good job of improving it as a luxury SUV, entry-level luxury SUV, and giving customers exactly what they're looking for and even more, BMW has sort of strayed a little from their overall concept, which we've come to know over the years. Like what we've come to expect from BMW, the new X1 strays from that a little. So it's not as much of a BMW as it used to be, but as a luxury SUV, entry-level luxury SUV, it's way better, and that I think is the most important part, right? Because as a buyer, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for features, you're looking for technology, you're looking for premiumness, luxury, and all of that the BMW X1 covers very well.